Sandy here, Ask the Pool Girl, answering another one of your questions from our website. The question is, my pump is priming dry. My pump was off for 3 days. I tried to start it and it says priming dry. So this would make a lot of sense to me if the pool equipment is slightly higher than the level of the pool. So that's meaning that when the pump starts, it has to draw water up in elevation, uphill slightly. That would, if the system gets turned off and it's not airtight, meaning if there's any air that can get back in through the pump lid, through one of the plugs on the pump, through maybe a valve that isn't closed all the way, it could allow air back in the system. So if the pool is running and functioning normal and then you turn it off and you hear the air or you hear water kind of gurgling and going back into the pool, that would mean that it's draining out of those pipes and it's going back into the pool. So when you go to start it up next time, it is going to have to work really hard to get the water up in elevation to get it back through the pump. So a couple of things that you can do if you have this issue are, one, get the garden hose out, fill up your pump basket, and flood the line back a little bit toward the pool. That'll give your system a little bit of an easier time to get started because it'll need to get that initial surge of water to get things really moving. And then, if you watch a pump priming, that depending on the equipment setup and all that kind of stuff, you can see the water actually start to move. Sometimes it's a trickle, then it's a gush, and then when it gets fully primed and it works the air out of the system, typically you're looking into the top of the pump in the pump lid and it almost looks like it's empty, but the water is moving if you can see the water coming out of the returns in the pool. A couple of other things that you can do in the event that you're having challenges priming your pump. First is, of course, add the water. The second thing is you can put the garden hose going in the skimmer. Also check to make sure that you don't have any obstructions, leaves, toys, anything like that have gotten either sucked into the skimmer basket or are laying on top of the main drain of your swimming pool, because both of those would prevent water from effectively coming in. A couple of the other things are, if you took the lid off the pump for any reason, if you cleaned out the basket in the pump and you didn't put the basket in properly so it's not flat down where it's supposed to be and you can't get that lid tight, that would be another reason that you would have issues priming. You could also make sure that the plugs on the pump are tight. They don't typically loosen themselves once you get the system started, but sometimes if especially at the opening, you put the plugs in and you tighten it, but then you don't go back and retighten them. That could be an area that air is introduced. And when you're servicing that pump, always make sure that the O-ring goes back on the underside of the lid the way it's supposed to. If your O-ring wears out, gets fatigued, dry rots, anything like that, it's time to replace it. You can also use Magic Lube, a water-based lubricant, to eliminate any of those air gaps on the pump lid. So those are a few things that could help. If you're still having issues priming a pump, which I guess this has now moved into a priming the pump tutorial, you should next start to look at your filter. If you have a sand filter, it might need to be backwashed. One of the ways that you can test if a filter is causing your priming issues is if you have a multi-port valve and you put the valve on to recirculate. What that will do is actually bypass the filter. So you can draw water in through the pump, skip the filter, and then push it back over either to your heater or back into the pool. And if you get priming easily and readily when you've bypassed the filter, that's an indication it's time either to backwash, or you should consider, if it's been 3, 5, 7 years, it depends on each system. Since the sand was changed, you may need to do that. Or in some parts of the country where you get cottonwood debris onto the surface of the pool, that clogs the top of sand filters. So sometimes the lid of the sand filter needs to get taken off. You need to, by hand, scoop some of those cottonwoods out, It can often be a layer like 4 inches thick. So those are all a few of the reasons that it would say priming dry. Anyway, if it says priming dry, the newer pumps are designed that they can run without melting your PVC. Older pumps, especially if they ran dry for any amount of time, would heat up so much because they weren't air cooled that it would warp the pipes, contributing to more issues priming. But a lot of the newer pumps are air cooled, so you don't have that same issue. But now they definitely will tell you if you're having issues priming and water is not going through that system. So hopefully that helps. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to post and we will be sure to answer them. Thanks.